Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in to another episode. This is a DIY video. I'm going to show you how I set up my vehicle's power system and how it's able to input 433 watts.
This is our last chance to leave it all behind. Raise your voice and raise your power, your power. This is our last chance to leave it all behind. Raise your voice, raise your power, yeah.
While we're here, let's go take a look under the rig. This is the Nolo Designs skid plate. Has protected my car. I got a pretty good hit right there that otherwise probably would have hit my radiator support beam. So you could save 5% on Nolo Design skid plates with my code JonDZ5, JonDZ5. There we go, baby. Hey there, so just a disclaimer, I am not an expert, I'm not an electrician or engineer. I'm just some guy that has, some DIY capacity, but I'm by no means an expert. I'm just gonna share what I know. So first of all, before starting this project, you need to figure out what kind of vehicle power system you want to go with. There's kind of the old school way of doing it with a second battery where it gets recharged by the alternator. It puts more stress on the alternator. I don't know very much about that system, but I do know that you're gonna need to know a lot about how to set that up. I mean, nowadays, I don't think many people are going that route anymore. There's this YouTube channel called Tinker's Adventures, and I think there's more and more people that are going to be doing the power setup that I'll be installing. And by the way, I got the idea from Tinker's Adventures, so shout out to him. He makes excellent videos. The guy's blown up. He's becoming very, very popular in the overland and off-road space. So congrats to him on his growth, and he runs an amazing channel. He's an engineer. He did a video about how to fast recharge your power stations, but someone like me that just doesn't know how, that's not familiar with power systems, electrical. I saw the idea, I just didn't know how to implement it into my vehicle. So hopefully, my dumbed down instructions will be able to help some people out, and hopefully not get anyone in trouble. Like I said, I'm not an expert. So the hope with this video is people that are actual experts are going to chime in and say like, hey, you should do things this way, or hey, this is a better way to do things, or John, you're completely wrong, your car's going to explode. Just kidding. I consulted with enough friends that that are knowledgeable. All right, so the first thing you need to do is figure out where you're going to place your DC to DC converter. The one that was recommended by Tinker's Adventures, and I mean, I could vouch, this unit has been great. The Victron Orion system, it's actually pretty small, so check this out. All right, so here we are, and I placed it in this quarter window. What I did was I just used some plywood. I used cardboard to trace out my quarter window, and then I cut the plywood just a tad bit bigger so I could wedge it into that quarter window. I secured everything with 90-degree brackets and self-tapping screws, and did that at multiple spots. You could actually mount this DC to DC converter. Go ahead and screw it in and affix it. The next step is going to be purchasing the right amount of wire, and the right wire. That's a tongue twister. So you're going to need to run a thick gauge wire from your battery all the way to where your power station is going to be located. That's why my advice is figure out where you're going to mount this thing, and that's going to determine how much wire length you're going to need to buy and the thickness of the wire. Use a website that calculates the thickness of wire you need to get, or the gauge of the wire that you'll need to get according to the length. In my case, I had a friend that had 12 feet of 2-gauge wire just sitting around, so I went ahead and used that. From my vehicle's battery over to the quarter window was about 10 feet. According to this website, I just needed 4-gauge wire. Alright, so this is where the vehicle power system starts. You're going to have your car battery. I upgraded mine, and I highly recommend anyone that is doing overlanding or car camping or boondocking or whatever, van lifing, definitely upgrade your car battery. Don't be running just a standard lead acid. This is a deep cycle AGM by Optima, and you could drain this thing to empty, recharge it 300 times, and these things typically last a lot longer than the standard 5 years. Also, with a standard lead acid battery, once you drop it down to dead, that thing's permanently damaged. This one isn't. This will live 300 times. All right, so we got the 12-volt car battery, and we run it into this breaker switch. So see right here that this is a 100 amp thermal circuit breaker. So when I press that, pretty much the whole power system is cut off from this point right here. You have to ground this, so this is actually not connected to the negative battery lead, which is right down there somewhere, but it's actually grounded to the frame. All right, so whatever vehicle that you may have, you'll want to run this into your vehicle's interior. And what I did was, because there's supposed to be 2 spots where I could run it through the firewall. The spot over to the passenger side is not a very good option, I hear. And then this one down here on the driver's side is just hard to get to. So I decided that I would just run it through the front fender. And let me show you. So you run it through the front fender, and right here you just could run the wires through. So I have this, this is probably overkill, but I have a 2-gauge wire that runs right here, and then I put it into this little seal that runs into my vehicle's interior. From there, I run the wire through here. Yes, it was kind of a pain in the ass, but it's doable, and you don't have to make it nice and neat. You could just, if I had the wire running here, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But that's basically ran through there. I need to get new clips so that this thing is going to stay. I just haven't bought them yet. And then it runs up here, up to the DC to DC converter. All right, so I've prepared this graphic for you. You should probably screenshot it. You'll find it useful. And again, I'm not an expert, so if I have something here that's wrong, comment below. But anyways, we're going to take this one step at a time. So rather than explain this entire diagram that I made, you need to know how to prepare the wires. You'll need to attach eyelets. You'll have to crimp them down. You'll need a special tool to do that. So let me get into it right now. All right, so I guess I should probably show you how to crimp these wires, because that's going to be a really important part of this project. So this is a hydraulic wire tool, or hydraulic wire crimping tool from Pittsburgh, which is a Harbor Freight brand. These wire strippers are obviously too small, so just use something like a scissor, or I'm just gonna, scissors would be easier, to be honest. Alright, so anyways, don't get these kind of eyelets, get something similar to that. Because this will actually fit. Alright, so you stick that in, and this is the wrong size, but just for an example, this is hydraulic, so close it up, and then you just start pumping. You see right here, it's going to start crimping down. Very powerful tool. Anyways, you get the idea. All right, so make sure to also attach heat shrink to the eyelets. That way it's nice and like more weatherproof than it was. So wires don't get crossed up after the installation. So referring to this diagram, just make sure you connect everything, and then focusing on the bottom left, you need to run the accessory signal. That's going to go to either a fuse, or in my case, in my Honda's case, it's going to be a relay. And I'm going to tap into that relay, into the pin of that relay, and it's going to send a signal to this DC to DC converter. Now, if you don't do this, then you won't get this thing powered up. This thing will drain your battery if your car's not running. You don't want that to happen, so make sure that you run that accessory signal. Actually, if you look at this picture, you'll see that the accessory signal is bypassed. So if you install this without putting, and you leave that loop in there, then it will drain your battery. That won't be good. So make sure you disconnect that little loop right there, and there's a white line that's pointing to the accessory signal. You want to tap into that, run a thin gauge wire over to, like I said, either a fuse, an accessory fuse, or an accessory relay. So now that everything's wired up, you're going to have to make some modifications to your power station's input wires. I'm going to focus on EcoFlow. They're really popular in the overland and off-road space. I have 2 EcoFlow power stations that, by the way, were provided to me by EcoFlow. I did reviews for them, and I agreed to make video reviews for them because they're just so popular with overlanders. And these power stations are top-notch. The app that you use to control them is top-notch. I am honored to be partnered with them. So anyways, as you can see here, that wire was modified, and now it connects into this Delta 2 Max. So going around to this side, and the wire coming from the power station is actually this one right over here. This is a genuine EcoFlow wire. You have to make sure that you use the one that is kind of reddish orange. Okay, this is the one to use. It has a special pin right here that allows it to, it tells the EcoFlow power stations, or, well, EcoFlow kind of just uses the standard XT60 connector. But anyways, this is a special wire that allows it to charge beyond about, I think like 220 watts. So this right here is gonna go really high. I don't even know what I don't know, this might be like rated for 1,000 watts or more, but that just goes right here. into this Delta 2 Max. Now, I also have the River 2 Pro. So this is 768 watt hour. This Delta 2 Max is 2048 watt hour. And then sitting kind of in the middle is the Delta 2, which is at 1024 watt hour. And I don't know, this is 768, 1048. I don't know, it just seems like it's like just a little bit, it's only but 25% larger than this power station. So I don't find the Delta 2 to have a really, good solid place in the line of power stations. But then I guess the good thing about the Delta 2 is that it could, this outputs 800 watts, and the Delta 2 will output 1800 watts, and then this thing outputs 2400 watts. So at least the Delta 2 has the output, has a pretty decent output to run most things. Motherfucking mosquito. I hope this gives you a pretty good overview of this power system. Let's go ahead and give this thing a try. But before we do that, let's go just kind of look at these. Let's go look more at this Delta 2 Max. This thing is badass. All right, so again, 2048 watt hour. And one of the reasons why I really wanted this power station, I reached out to EcoFlow and I actually asked them, would you be willing to send me this unit so I could test it out, review it? I've not done like a legit review video, but I've already featured this thing in 2 of my videos. The feature I like the most is going to be the dual 500 watt inputs. And so just imagine you could do this fast car charging that I'm doing here, 433 watt input, bam. Just imagine running like a solar setup. I have a rooftop tent. So my rooftop tent has a lot of potential for mounting solar panels. If I chose to go that route, I could not only charge through my vehicle, but charge through the solar panels. And I could input as much as 1,000 watts. So this thing is, 2048 watt hour. Just imagine with, pretty much this setup, I'm almost recharging this thing to full in just over 2 hours. Also, you can see all the different AC 110 outputs. I got 6 of them. We got a little DC. It would have been cool if there's more than just one DC output, because you got your refrigerator, and then there's other things like there's a bunch of different appliances that could use DC 12. A lot of things designed for car camping that are DC 12. So it would have been cool if there was more than just one of these. And then right here, you got this proprietary XT150. There's 2 slots, and that could be used for power expansion. You could get these things up to 6,000 watt hour. But also you could attach some of the EcoFlow appliances like the Wave 2 air conditioner / heater, and what else? Well, I think that's about it. So when you run it like that, it's going to what the fuck is going on out there? When you run it like that, it's going to be 28% more efficient. So just imagine running an air conditioner, or in the wintertime, I'm really excited to run the Wave 2 as an actual heater when I'm sleeping in my rooftop tent in 0-degree weather. So yeah, that connector right there is going to be 28% more efficient.
Anyways, if you're still here, thank you for sticking around. This video is a lot longer than I thought it would be. But anyways, let's go end it with a giveaway. I'm not sponsored by Victron. I actually purchased an extra unit because I was having some issues. I actually ended up pulling the signal wire out of the relay unknowingly, and I thought I might have burned out the Victron unit, so I ended up buying another one. And Amazon was so clutch, they delivered it within like 7 hours. Crazy stuff. I actually placed the order at 10 o'clock at night, received it at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then I reinstalled the unit. That's why I have footage of the installation. And it turns out that it wasn't the unit. My original unit is just fine, so now I have an extra one, and I'm going to give it away. Actually, we'll do this a little different this time, just one word. And the keyword is ZAP. Z-A-P. Use that in your comment, and at the end of the month, I'll hold a drawing. We'll use the iPhone app that chooses a winner on the YouTube comments that has a keyword, and you have 3 days to respond. If you don't, then the prize goes to the next person. USA only, please. Just because it's just going to be too expensive to ship out of country. So anyways, yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. I think this is an awesome setup to have, and it will really help you out on your adventures. All right. Well, till next time, have fun on your adventures.